I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. I have the best numbers for any president in many years, any president.
So they're just going to let him go ahead and lie like that because he is lying. And the people who are standing there with their microphones in his face know he's lying. Because despite Donald's desperate false statements to the contrary, his poll numbers are terrible, demonstrably terrible. They reflect the unmitigated disaster that his second term in office has been. So let's dive into these recent survey results and what they tell us about Donald's failed leadership and how it's being perceived by the American people. The latest Economist YouGov poll shows that Donald has hit a new low in popularity and public confidence across multiple issues. Only 39% of Americans approve of his job performance, while 58% disapprove. This leaves him with a net approval of minus 19. That is 19 points underwater, the worst numbers of his second term thus far. But remember, he's not done starving American children yet. So we'll see. Approval among adults under 30 has cratered down to 20%. That's down 30 points since February. So happy that the youth of America are waking up to reality. Donald now receives negative marks on nearly every single major issue, especially inflation, where he's minus 31, and the economy, minus 22. It is so heartwarming to know that those are the two main issues. 78 million Americans voted for him because of the economy and inflation, which he promised to fix on day one. Oh, well. Despite Donald's endless attempts to blame the government shutdown on Democrats, Americans are holding him and his party responsible, as they should, because Republicans control everything, including the executive branch and both houses of Congress. A new national poll by NBC News found that, quote, 52% of voters blame Donald and Republicans in Congress for the ongoing shutdown, while 42% blame Democrats in Congress, unquote. I don't think those numbers are wide enough apart, but that is at least a direction in which they're trending. So that is good that voters are paying attention to who is actually running the show and who could actually end the shutdown tomorrow if they so chose. But before we go on, we have to keep the pressure on. So please like and share this video. And if you believe in our mission, please subscribe to the Barry Trump Media YouTube channel. Voters don't just disapprove of the shutdown, they also disapprove of Donald's callous behavior during the shutdown. For instance, a Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll made an interesting discovery. Americans apparently, for some weird reason, don't like it when presidents tear down parts of the White House, especially after having lied about not doing it. The Guardian reported further on these findings, and results show that 56% of people disapprove of Donald's demolition of the White House's East Wing in order to make room for a new gilded $350 million ballroom, while hundreds of thousands of Americans are either out of work or going without pay. By the way, 1/3 of the people polled in that survey voted for Donald in 2024. These results were similar to those of a Yahoo YouGov poll that was also released this week. CBS Boston went into the details of that poll's findings on the East Wing debacle. Take a look.
A new national poll finds more than 60% disapprove of the new ballroom plan, while just 1 in 4 approve. And while it's no surprise that Democrats hate the idea, it's highly unusual for 27% of Republicans to agree with them on anything regarding Trump. And check out the disapproval among independents.
It tells me that he has violated American political culture, which goes beyond party.
Boston College political science professor Mark Landy thinks Trump may have mistaken his fans' admiration for his tycoon brand with a love of European-style grandeur.
This was so voluntary, right? No MAGA person is begging him to build a palatial ballroom in the White House.
European style grandeur, is that what we're calling it now? That's just really bad taste. Of course, Donald comes by it honestly. My grandmother also had incredibly bad taste. So that doesn't mean, however, the American people should be subjected to it. And it certainly doesn't mean that he should be destroying our legacy to erect what, in his mind, is a monument to him and his greatness, and something none of us will ever benefit from, and that will visually make most of us really, really sick. That Economist YouGov poll also found that Donald has lost favorability with young voters, a significant turnaround from his 2024 election gains. NJ.com reported on these findings. Only 20% of Americans under 30 approve of Donald's job performance. That's a 30-point drop since February, when half of that group supported him. The fact that half of Americans under 30 supported Donald Trump after he and his corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court took away the rights of American women, rendering them second-class citizens, that is shocking. And I think it is a good reminder just how powerfully and effectively the Republican Party has gone after disaffected white men, young white men, and how Democrats need to figure out a way to counter that by helping women and men who care about them under the age of 30 can be empowered if they only allow themselves to be. So we can't just rely on the fact that there's a change in sentiment here because Donald is so terrible, because there's still Joe Rogan and Nick Fuentes and Stephen Miller waiting in the wings to poison their minds against the American experiment, against diversity, against equality, against inclusion. So again, it's a good sign, it's a good trend, but we can't take it for granted. Approval among adults aged 30 to 44 for Donald has fallen 8 points since February, and that is down to 37%. This decline in support from Gen Z and millennial voters raises alarms for Republicans heading into the 2026 midterms, to which I say, good. They should be alarmed. They should maybe start to realize that being in control of the entire federal government is a very risky proposition if you demonstrate on a daily basis that you don't give a shit about the people who put you in power. If you refuse to compromise with the minority party just so that you can hang on to your power, no matter how ill-gotten, and harm the prospects, the future, the rights of the American people, it just isn't going to fly. Now, personally, I believe that the Republican Party, as it's currently constituted, should cease to exist entirely. But a Republican Party that has a reckoning would be better than this fascist Republican Party. So don't get me wrong. I want Democrats to wipe up the floor with Republicans in 2026. I want Republicans to spend the next year in disarray trying to figure out what direction they want to go in. Right now, it looks like they're 100% behind fascist autocracy. And because that seems to be the case, none of us should be sanguine about next year's elections. Today is election day in several states. New York City mayor, there are gubernatorial elections in Virginia and New Jersey, very, very important elections. If Democrats perform as well as polls indicate they may well, Republicans are going to become more desperate. And I think it's fair to say at this point, this is not a party interested in soul searching. This is a party interested in power for power's sake. And the rest of us should be on our guard. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.